41 days. For 41 agonizing days, there has been no sign of Nancy Guthrie since she vanished from her Tucson, Arizona residence. Investigators now find themselves in a war of attrition, battling microscopic evidence that stubbornly conceals its secrets. It has now been confirmed that foreign DNA was recovered from within the Guthrie home, a genetic fingerprint belonging to an unknown individual, someone who was not Nancy and not part of her trusted circle. Yet, a critical complication threatens to paralyze the entire inquiry. The DNA sample is a composite, a mixture from more than one person. While the Pima County Sheriff confronts a chilling possibility about the perpetrator, a newly unsealed trove of digital evidence has just emerged. The FBI has at last penetrated the security protocols of Nancy Guthrie's secondary surveillance network. What their analysis uncovered from the side of the house near the pool fundamentally alters the timeline of the abduction. However, it is the data that is conspicuously missing that has become investigators' greatest concern. Day 41. The oppressive Tucson heat has begun to reflect the escalating intensity of the search for Nancy Guthrie. For weeks, public attention has been riveted by a solitary piece of evidence: the grainy surveillance image of a suspect captured at the front of the property. We can now confirm, however, that the Guthrie estate was fortified with a security network far more sophisticated than was initially revealed. A secondary layer of cameras was strategically placed, its lenses trained on the side yards and the secluded pool area. For more than a month, these devices have represented a digital black hole at the heart of the investigation. It is now known that federal investigators have breached the silence, successfully extracting data from these units. The case has officially pivoted from a hunt for new leads to an exhaustive process of forensic recovery. This leaves a central, haunting question. With a clear image of a suspect at the front of the house, why did the peripheral surveillance system go dark at the very moment of the abduction? The retrieval of this new imagery was a complex, multi-agency operation, uniting technicians from Google with investigators from Pima County. Official reports indicate that motion-activated cameras positioned along the side and rear of the residence did, in fact, capture images during the weeks that preceded Nancy's disappearance. These are not continuous video streams, but rather thumbnail captures static frames of activity, frozen in time, triggered by any detected movement. Court documents reveal that these captured thumbnails show a number of different individuals crossing through the side and back yards in the days before the incident. A portion of these individuals have been identified as law enforcement personnel, arriving on scene in the aftermath of the abduction. But others remain anonymous figures. Were they contractors, pool maintenance staff, or was their presence something far more predatory? And this presents the stark contradiction that detectives are now compelled to reconcile. On the night Nancy Guthrie vanished, the cameras activated by the suspect's approach to the front of the house performed flawlessly. And yet, the cameras monitoring the side of the house and the pool, which should have documented any movement along the perimeter, recorded nothing at all. The question is confounding. Why would a sophisticated security network fail in isolated sections, rather than system-wide? This has refocused investigative interest on the theory of a signal jammer, or a deliberate, targeted disruption of the internet service. Neighbors have reported unexplained interruptions to their own internet service that occurred within the precise time frame of the crime. And while some have dismissed the antenna seen protruding from the suspect's pocket as a mere walkie-talkie, the selective failure of Nancy's security cameras points toward a degree of technical sabotage that is deeply unsettling. The Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, had maintained a disciplined public silence for nearly 2 weeks. But that silence was broken in a recent interview, sending a palpable tremor through the Tucson community. When questioned directly whether he believed this perpetrator was capable of striking again, his answer was chillingly immediate. Absolutely. The sheriff is now proceeding under the formal theory that this was a targeted abduction, though he concedes they lack the hard evidence to confirm it with 100% certainty. The implication is unmistakable. The threat did not vanish with Nancy Guthrie. With digital evidence proving unreliable, the entire weight of the case now shifts to biology. Forensic analysts are now concentrating their efforts on a pair of gloves discovered by a roadside items believed to have been discarded by the perpetrator. To comprehend why this discovery has not yet yielded an arrest, one must delve into the intricate mechanics of the modern crime lab. Experts in forensic science, among them specialists from Arizona State University, have emphasized a critical fact. Skin cells shed inside a glove are notoriously DNA poor, when compared to biological fluids like blood or saliva. The longer an individual wears a glove, the more friction builds, depositing a greater number of those crucial cells. But the harsh environmental exposure on a Tucson roadside means these delicate samples degrade with alarming speed. The collection process itself is methodical, almost clinical. Analysts employ sterile, long-handled swabs, moistened with distilled water, to meticulously harvest any representative skin cells from the glove's interior lining. These collected cells are then subjected to a complex DNA extraction protocol, in which chemical reagents dissolve the cell membranes to isolate the precious genetic material within. In the United States, the threshold for creating a viable DNA profile is astonishingly small. Analysts need as little as a single nanogram of DNA to begin the process of amplifying specific genetic regions, known as short tandem repeats, or STRs. They are the fundamental markers of human identity, the genetic addresses that make each of us unique. In the Guthrie investigation, forensic scientists examined more than 20 of these specific locations, attempting to construct a clear genetic portrait, but their efforts were immediately thwarted. The DNA recovered from inside the home was a confounding mixture. This signifies that the evidence sample is a chaotic overlap of genetic material from several individuals, all jumbled together in one collection. The challenge is akin to deciphering 3 different novels that have been superimposed onto a single page, their texts hopelessly intertwined. This is the forensic puzzle confronting them. With the primary evidence compromised, the investigative team has pivoted to a single, minute detail captured in the surveillance footage. As the intruder moved through the darkened property, he was observed carrying a flashlight not in his hand, but clenched firmly between his teeth. In the lexicon of forensic science, an action like this constitutes what is known as a high-yield DNA event. If that particular flashlight was left at the scene or ever recovered, the saliva deposited on it would offer a far more concentrated and pure source of DNA than mere skin cells. Saliva is a primary biological fluid, highly prized by forensic experts for its ability to yield a large quantity of high-quality genetic material. A direct deposit of saliva on any object within the residence could provide the dominant, unambiguous profile required to cut through the static of the contaminated DNA sample. When analysts confront a mixed sample, they scrutinize the peak heights on a graph known as an electropherogram. If one contributor provided 90% of the DNA and another person only 10%, the individual profiles can be isolated with mathematical precision. However, when the contributions are nearly equal, even in a simple mixture of 2 or 3 people, the complexity of separation grows exponentially. There is a procedural logic behind the recent flurry of search warrants and buccal swabs being collected from individuals of interest. Standard investigative protocol dictates that law enforcement does not request a suspect's DNA unless they possess an existing profile from the crime for comparison. The implication is clear. In spite of the challenges with the mixture, the lab has successfully developed at least a partial, if not weak, genetic profile from the evidence at the Guthrie crime scene. While this profile may lack the integrity needed for submission to the National CODIS database, it is sufficient for a direct, one-to-one comparison. Should a suspect's buccal swab, a simple and painless collection from the inner cheek, align with even the less prominent peaks in that household mixture, the investigative circle will begin to close. The scope of the inquiry has now widened, drawing in a high-profile media appearance that occurred just prior to the abduction. Nancy's daughter, Savannah Guthrie, had been in Tucson filming a piece for the Today Show, a segment that featured a stop at a local Mexican restaurant. Officials have now confirmed they are methodically canvassing the employees and customers of that establishment. They are searching for any sign of anomalous behavior, any individuals who seem to be lingering without cause, who took an unusual number of photographs, or who appeared fixated on the production crew rather than their surroundings. This development signals a profound shift in the working theory of the crime. Police are no longer searching for a random, local burglar. They are now pursuing the chilling possibility of a Savannah stalker. If the motive was an obsession with Nancy's high-profile daughter, the suspect's known behavior, wearing a balaclava while leaving his mouth exposed, and spending a full 40 minutes within the home, begins to coalesce into a very specific psychological portrait. The legal jeopardy is also escalating. If this proves to be a case of interstate stalking that resulted in a kidnapping, federal charges will supersede local ones, bringing with them sentencing guidelines that are far more severe than for a standard home invasion. The search for Nancy Guthrie is now entering a critical phase, a race where forensic science must move faster than time is running out. All eyes are now on the outcome of the latest battery of expedited laboratory tests. In a case with this level of notoriety, the forensic lab dedicates all its resources. Every other case is put on hold. The only evidence being processed by the machines belongs to Nancy Guthrie. Should the conventional STR testing continue to yield ambiguous results because of the compromised mixtures, investigators have one final, powerful weapon in their arsenal: investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG. This is the very same cutting-edge technology that led to the capture of the Golden State Killer and identified the suspect in the tragic Moscow, Idaho murders. By uploading the unknown perpetrator's profile to public genealogy databases like GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA, they are not searching for the suspect himself. They are hunting for his relatives, perhaps third or fourth cousins. They are looking for a single name at the top of a family tree that could lead them down a genealogical path to one man of the right age, in the right city, with the right eye color. The Pima County Sheriff's Office is deliberately keeping specific details about the home's interior close to the vest. This is a standard and crucial investigative tactic. It acts as a powerful filter, ensuring that when they finally locate a person who knows what truly happened inside that house, they can verify it is the perpetrator and not someone merely seeking the spotlight. Day 41 is ending. The pressure is mounting. The next potential breakthrough hinges on the forensic review of thumbnail images captured near the pool area. Could those digital fragments reveal a face that the front camera missed? For now, we wait.